Hello, my name is Mayan Medini. I'm an astrologer, and this is a video about the North Node in Aries and the South Node in Libra. The dragon's head and tail are mathematical points representing the nodes of the moon, the points in space where the moon's orbit intersects with the ecliptic. The cyclical movement of the nodes takes 18.5 years across the zodiac in the opposite direction of the sun's orbit. The essence of the dragon's head and tail. Throughout history, the nodes received different interpretations from different astrologers. In Vedic astrology, these points are known as Rahu and Ketu. They represent the personal karma generated in previous incarnations and suggest a course for future lives. In Western astrology, the North Node is considered a benefic, while the South Node is considered harmful. To this day, there is no blanket agreement among astrologers on the description of the essence of the nodes, how they work, and how you can work with them personally. Just as there is no agreement on what the mind is, what the soul is, and what karma is, so there is no agreement or true understanding of the meaning of the lunar nodes. With the changes in human consciousness, so does the interpretation of the nodal axis. Yet, there is a consensus that they represent the connection to another dimension over which we have no control, and that they are related to the journey of the soul. The sign in which the North Node transits for a year and a half represents the qualities which will become more desirable for that time, while the qualities of the sign housing the transiting South Node seem negative or ones that we should avoid. The traits of the South Node sign are suddenly considered less appealing or something we prefer to stay away from. The traits of the sign housing the North Node become what we aspire to and something we prefer to adopt for ourselves during that period. The nodes through the zodiac signs. The transits of the lunar nodes from sign to sign represents the trends or the periodical shifts of public attention. The big day-to-day dramas are described by the planets. If we think of life as a movie, the planets, according to signs and aspects, represent the script and the actors. The nodes provide the setting, including wardrobe, props, etc. During 2020-21, the South Node was in Sagittarius, and indeed people did not travel, organized religion faced a crisis, and university also lost their appeal. The North Node was in Gemini and forced us all to get to know our neighbors and our immediate surroundings. In addition, online communication apps such as Zoom changed the way we conduct our affairs. During 2022 to the summer of 23, the South Node was in Scorpio and led to heightened passions for every imaginable topic. It also fueled revenge, organized crime, and brought the economy of greed, while the North Node in Taurus led to price increases and grab as much as you can mentality. If there's one thing I've realized from the last few years, it's how much the South Node is influential, sometimes more than the North Node. Aries Libra axis, the axis of relationships or the axis of conflict. The road to self-discovery goes through relationship. Along the way, the Aries Libra axis oscillates, and slowly we start wishing for balance between me and us, striving for harmony in relationships. While on the axis we go through upheavals and conflicts. Yet, we all want a relationship with respect, friendship, attraction, and love. The Aries Libra axis indicates the desire for an ideal love. Those who have found this love discover that along the way they go through a journey of movement between self and other, back to self, another other, and so on. Along with love and attraction, one must learn to be considerate, Libra, and still maintain individuality, Aries. The two ends of the pole. An initial description of the difference between them is that Aries prefers a short and direct sentence over vague formulations the Libra really likes. Libra is politically correct. Aries says what he wants. Aries prefers the simple, the uncomplicated, the personal, the childish, the immediate. He takes what he wants. Libra insists on the laws, customs, propriety, and the observance of clear rules. Libra thinks too much. Aries acts first and thinks later. Conflict. Aries is looking for a new beginning. He fights for self-discovery, impulsive and ready to throw himself into a situation without thinking twice. Aries gets fired up quickly, fights fast and hard, very physical, and relatively quickly he runs out of power. His enthusiasm passes until the next burst. Libra fights by endless discussions, bitter arguments, and then some more deliberations and debates. At that time, the Aries has already gone through 3 different decisions and actions. Libras are prone to get stuck in the same court battle for years. The trouble with a Libra is that he is unable to make a decision. He is also unable to admit it, so he continues to argue, analyze, collect more data, and talk about it some more. Libra tries to walk between the drops and claims that he is trying to avoid conflict. The Ram quickly loses patience and acts even before a decision was taken. North Node in Aries prefers to get through the confrontation as quickly as possible and move on. For him, there is no need to walk between the drops because we are not made of sugar and he's okay with getting wet. To lead or to follow. Libra South Node tends to lose himself in the moods, feelings, and opinions of others. This identification can get to the point that his personal existence depends on those around him. Libra South Node is trapped inside what others say, never learning to trust himself. Aries North Node will put an emphasis on an independent and individual path. He desires to control his personal space with an attitude of, "Don't tell me what to do." When feeling restricted, the Ram will rebel and engage in battle. South Node in Libra signifies an anxiety about being alone, fearing he will fail or he will not know how to manage on his own. There are many who suffer humiliation, abuse, and terrible relationship only to avoid being alone. They do not dare to stand up for themselves. The problem begins with others who tell the Libra South Node that he is not good enough, smart enough, and other similar suggestions. Libra South Node will adopt and believe that he is incapable. The North Node in Aries can start freeing some people to realize that the person who says these words to them does not want their best, but only wants to continue to keep them small. North Node in Aries teaches us to find out what our private opinions are, how to express them. The process includes a period of distancing yourself from others, especially those you admired until that moment. It's not easy, but you overcome the anxiety of being alone, thinking alone, or being unpopular. You discover that it's not the end of the world to voice your inner truth. On the contrary, it is only the beginning of something worthwhile that will benefit others. In addition, sometimes the fear of being alone, or worse, being considered unpopular, may drive a Libra into emotional manipulation of others. When the transiting South Node is in Libra, these manipulations are revealed, or they just don't work anymore. The balance of the axis comes from not belittling oneself while respecting and giving considerations for others. Social media. Libra represents everything related to social networks that have become the marker of what is right or wrong, what we like or dislike. Considering the background with the rise of artificial intelligence and the flooding of social networks with bots and fake profiles, it is no longer possible to tell if you are talking to real people or not. The South Node in a sign brings out the less pleasant parts of the sign, and hence our understanding that social media needs to change. Aries North Node will prefer face-to-face meetings to know exactly who he is dealing with. So, in my opinion, the initial impact of the transit will be related to social media, with users switching apps. I wrote this before the Twitter and Threads drama. Many will spend less time on fewer social apps. Many will favor personal meetings and phone calls. In addition, there will be many who will make a tremendous effort to express something original to avoid looking and sounding like bots. What are you sharing? Libra coined the term picture perfect. Their photos are perfect. They spend hours on makeup, hair, clothing, and background for the perfect photo. Aries will prefer photos showcasing achievements. The Libra's pictures have a cool atmosphere, distant, with a perfect smile that doesn't really convey joy. The Ram's picture will show a face with real expression, real activity, and a genuine smile from the heart. Beauty. Libra represents beauty, harmony, art, everything we all do to look better and to make our surroundings more pleasing to the eye. Aries also loves beauty, but it's beauty that speaks to him. It's functional and it's tailored to him. Aries Libra axis emphasizes beauty. The beauty industry just keeps growing and expanding. Plastic surgery is becoming the norm, along with untold number of beauty treatments of all kinds. The next year and a half will push this trend even forward, and we will all invest even more time in our looks. You can expect new trends that will emphasize something personal, buying from lesser-known brands or from designers who resonate with us. The cold gray-looking trend of the past few years will end its era. The new trend will be much more colorful, versatile, and above all will demand a personal touch. The nice part about the Aries Libra axis is that they fight over what is more beautiful, what is considered trendy, and what is not. We can expect more beauty contests of all kinds and shapes. Laws, justice, and everything in between. Libra insists on rules, the written laws and the unwritten social norms or conventions. The South Node enters Libra at a time when many have already lost faith in legal systems and its laws. Social norms have also been undermined to the point where people are no longer afraid of what will the neighbors say. This trend continues, intensifies, and the fight over laws intensifies. During the year and a half of the South Node in Libra, there will be many issues regarding laws related to technology, artificial intelligence, copyrights, etc. There will be a demand for worldwide global enforcement. The change will come towards the beginning of 24. Pluto returns to Aquarius. Business owners and big companies who will continue to bend governments in the direction that is convenient for them. Aries insists on justice, only it is a very subjective justice, what he personally sees as right. He doesn't care about what other people consider as right. Aries is impulsive, and the more chances of people taking the law into their own hands is higher during this transit. North Node in Aries supports new attempts and a new type of thinking that says, let's try. The worst is that we'll understand that it doesn't work. The way out of global recession will be through the lifting of bureaucracy's barriers that are currently tying the hands of medium-sized businesses. Don't be surprised if the year 24 will be characterized by wars between large and medium companies more than wars between countries. The issue of admissible evidence in court of law would be one of the more important ones. In an era where AI copies our identity and can do business on our behalf, how will you be able to prove that the person who sent the message or spoke on the phone is really me and therefore I am responsible for what I said? Or maybe it's an avatar created according to my voice and my appearance and I didn't know anything about it, so I'm not responsible for what was said or signed. Technological progress will bring major changes to the laws. Education. This is the good news related to the North Node in Aries. In a time of disintegration of the education systems, here comes a welcome change in direction in which we remember that the children are the future, that we cannot continue to neglect them and expect them to grow up and bridge these gaps. Aries is a sign that understands children, who knows how to talk to them, how to be a child himself, no matter what the chronological age is. This too will only come next year, but a real change will commence in the education system, one that also counts the children and not just the system. Focus. In recent years, many of us branched out in our careers to the point where we present ourselves in several fields and with multiple skills and titles. South Node in Libra likes to keep and add more and more titles and wants to keep all the options open. Yet it is the North Node which brings the new theme, and Aries wants focus. It is telling us to choose one field in which we are experts and focus on that one. North Node in Aries can lead to an algorithm that punishes those who advertise themselves in several different fields at the same time and in several different titles or expertise. The general direction will require us to specialize in one thing and decide what our profession is at any given moment. Consideration. The South Node in Libra insists on kindness and consideration, caring for everyone who is going through hard times, the poor, the disabled, the minority, etc. Aries doesn't have that patience. He loves to help, but it is help as he is willing to give it and not necessarily what is right for the recipient. The topic of consideration seems trivial, but it's very important. In the days of the COVID lockdowns, it was clear that the overwhelming majority of those who have no underlying illnesses will not be harmed if they contracted the virus. The reason we all stopped our lives and agreed to draconian laws was because we were considerate. Consideration is, in my opinion, what makes humans humans. It is what holds us together, and beautifully so. Yet this topic will be one of the more controversial topics in the next year and a half. The North Node will bring with it a wave of exhaustion and unwillingness to be kind and considerate, feeling like we have had enough of all the sick, wounded, mentally challenged, and other people who can cut the line and leave us standing. Beautiful, basic consideration has become a doorway for manipulation and exploitation. Aries is compassionate. He's just not willing to be ordered to be empathic. He wants to do it because it's the right thing to do and not because someone ordered him to do it. In my opinion, this will be one of the first changes that the transiting nodes will bring. The protest of the healthy, the sane, the non-drug addicts, the workers, and those who once believed that if you play the game by the rules, then you will get what you deserve. They are the ones who see how they are being trampled on under different pretexts of consideration for others. They are the ones who will lose patience for the systems where quain exemption means that you will never get your turn. And yet, consideration and identification with society and its norms is what creates culture and humanity as we know it. The South Node in Libra is empathic. It empathizes with the suffering of others and tries to do something to alleviate that suffering. The South Node will not give up striving for equality, trying to give those who don't have the opportunities the embrace that they need. The South Node in Libra will try to mediate between opposing rivals. The North Node knows that mediation is the most practical and effective method, and therefore will probably cooperate with this trend. Joint effort. The Aries-Libra axis is known as the conflict axis because that's what we remember, the fights and what didn't work out. In daily life, it is far more the axis that offers support, helps others, and is attentive. Aries loves competition, but he doesn't play dirty. He wants to win because he deserves the victory. During the polarization of the past few years and the rapacity of Pluto in Capricorn, there were many who reacted by insisting on being kind and helpful. Those who volunteer quietly, without public relations, giving of themselves, helping those they can, without preconditions and without discrimination, they are the ones who created the infrastructure for the future. The next wave of competitions will be featured tasks in which people are competing in helping other peoples, in contrast to the reality shows of the Pluto in Capricorn era, where the winner was the best predator. A little bit about the dates. The nodal axis was in Aries Libra in the following dates. In the late 60s, it brought the 60s cultures. In the middle of the 80s, it's the 80s culture. The puffy hair, the video games swept the world. And in the early 2000s, it was the rise of the social media that came with this axis. The nodes enter Aries Libra on July 17th, 23. As I wrote above, the nodal axis is less apparent on a day-to-day basis. It becomes noticeable during eclipses. However, this year, we will feel the transit from Scorpio to Libra and Taurus to Aries immediately. Along with the transit, there will be a square between the nodes and Pluto in 29 Capricorn. This will take place between July 17th and July 29th. The chance of widespread economic upheaval is high during this period, and along with it, many norms and laws undergo a difficult transformation. Venus retrograde in Leo during the summer of 23 weakens Libra and the descending nodes with it. It will be a time when there will be quite a few breakups in relationships, unfulfilled contracts, disorderly conduct, and violations of all kinds that come from the feeling that there is nothing to lose and there is no one who can stop or make us pay for these violations. Eclipses in October 23. The solar eclipse features the Sun and the Moon in a square aspect to Pluto, which will affect the economy. There will probably be attempts and calls for stronger regulation. The luminary's Lord Venus is in Virgo in detriment and in a square aspect to Saturn, another signifying for a bad turn of the economy. 2 weeks later, the lunar eclipse has a mixed message with it. The Moon will be conjunct Jupiter, while the Sun with Mercury and Mars. There is an exact opposition between Jupiter and Mars, and this may bring a change in the economy based on faith. This can be a boycott, this can be a real attempt to curtail the super rich and powerful with the use of the common people. Pluto. There will be a big difference between the period of the second half of 23 with Pluto in Capricorn. It will bring with it a continuous of overpowering which with the North Node in Aries cannot tolerate, while the South Node in Libra likes. It means that somebody else makes the decision for him, and all he can do is sit and complain. Pluto returns to Aquarius for the major part of 24. When Pluto is in Aquarius, the South Node in Libra will insist on keeping the algorithm fair. It will not have preference and will not like one user more than he likes another. That is equality, and the algorithms are the same for all, at least to those who know how to use them. At the same time, the same Pluto in Aquarius strengthens the desire for individuality. Along with the North Node in Aries, it will be easier to leave the shackles of traditions, relationship, or even economic comfort in favor of independent individual personal expression. Eclipses, April 24. The lunar eclipses come first within an overall positive chart. The eclipse will bring in issues related to education. The solar eclipse is a tricky one. The Sun and the Moon conjunct Chiron, which suggests past wounds. The luminary's Lord Mars in Pisces, a conjunct Saturn, probably raises more and more issues of drug use among younger people, and in addition to it, a free fall in the mental health services when it is overwhelmed by too much demand and too little help. The eclipses of September-October 24, those will probably deal mainly with politics, with surprises and newcomers. I would like to thank you for listening and hope you subscribe to this channel, and I'll see you in the next video, and thank you for your support.